Welcome to Intelligent Human Leadership, leading yourself and your team. Do you ever find yourself grappling with a lack of confidence in your team? Or battling the relentless waves of concern and fear? Are the pressures to meet client expectations and the burden of missed opportunities weighing you down? On this podcast, you'll discover the strategies and insights that will reignite your team's morale and help you find the harmony and knowledge you seek to propel your business forward. Here, we explore innovative ways to reignite your creative spirit and achieve greatness, empowering you to lead with intelligence, compassion, and resilience. If you're ready to dive deep into your core of leadership challenges and be guided toward success, here's your host, founder of Steward Your Business, David Carr.
Hello and welcome back. My name is David Carr, your host of the Intelligent Leadership Podcast. We're glad you're here. I'm glad you're here today. And I wanted to pick up on our last couple episodes. We were talking about the particular last episode. We were covering this idea of not investing in yourself and what the cost would be there. And so if you missed that episode, definitely go back and listen to that. What happens, I find, as a result of not investing in ourselves, getting clear on those things we talked about in the last episode, is that our stress builds. And we hit on that a bit in the last episode. But our stress, we start to burn out and creeps in because we're not getting clear on how best to handle that. And oftentimes that's through investing ourselves, whether it's a personal counselor, a coach, a consultant to help give us a perspective on things. And so another idea or a problem that I see in this journey as a business owner, as a leader, watching over teams, helping to deal with the inevitable stresses of life that will come. It's not if they will come, it's when they will come. How are you going to handle those? And there's a lot that affects us mentally, emotionally, physically, and so I wanted to bring up the idea to you and the thoughts today. I've been there. I've been there many, many times. The stresses into my marriage, stressors in work obligations, things I keep saying yes to. And I want you to really, take a moment here. We've all been there, but to really recognize, hey, if I'm staying under this pressure, and sometimes you don't even realize how much pressure you're under or stress. And how do you get clear of that? How do you actually assess it? Is this normal? There's a reasonable amount of stress that we should all have in our lives, but there's a place where it goes over into another line, if you will, and we don't even realize how much it's affecting our relationships in the world around us. So I want to just pose the question to you. The challenge or the problem here is that we don't assess that clearly, and then we're making decisions under duress, if you will. And what happens when we do that? So I want to dig a little deeper here. So externally in our world, when we are making poor decisions because our cognitive function is diminished, we are literally not thinking right in the head. How many of you guys have done that? Where somebody came up to you with a perfectly reasonable question or suggestion, and then you reacted in a negative way. You reacted in an inappropriate way. I call that a trigger. There are triggers to our behaviors, and we then make hasty, irrational decisions, oftentimes out of a way of defensiveness, protecting ourselves. We're putting a wall of self-preservation around us. And when you do that, if you do it often enough, and people that don't know you very well, what happens? They don't want to be around you. I've been married 18 years. Thankfully, my wife is committed to staying married with me. But in the reality is there's times where she's like, you know what? I don't really want to be around you right now. The way you're reacting and the way you're dealing with stress is not conducive to our relationship or coming up with an actual solution here. So it starts with yourself. I talk about leading yourself. You have to know yourself, and you have to know when do you click over into that place of stress and burnout and you're not getting reset. Okay. If you don't do that, I gave you an example of an external poor decision making result, right? Internally, what happens is we oftentimes neglect our body. Our body is stressed. There's a hormone called cortisol, which we build up into our system, right? And this cortisol literally puts us on edge. It leads to this degradation, if you will, of our health, and affects our overall longevity. So maybe you're not seeing it right here in the very moment, but have you thought about that? Like, how is this affecting me? Like, if I don't take care of myself now, today, like, how good am I going to be in 5-10 years from now? You're robbing those future times with your family, your friends, because you're literally cashing in, if you will, on your body and sacrificing that today, which is not unnecessary, rather than going for the long haul and thinking about that, planning for that. I know for me, I've been working on big projects, big proposals, deliverables. I'm trying to get down, and I double down. I'm like, oh, if I just work harder, I'll get this done. And I'm literally on fumes. And then my productivity goes down, my focus. And so in this podcast, I'll be giving you some suggestions and some things that we can some suggestions in which we can help address some of that. But what happens when you lose your productivity and your effectiveness and your impact, and you know it? I mean, this part of it, like, you'll have people come around and are like, there's something off, or you're just not there, or that you've gotten yourself in such a fever or such a place. And how many times have you doubled down there? And then you realize it's not working. And I've had this happen. I've been on both ends, but I've had it where literally the leader lashes out, stresses out the whole rest of the team. Now everybody else is on edge, right? They're not willing to say the things that need to be said because, well, we don't want to upset anybody. We have more conflicts. We have people siloing themselves. And it's out of self-preservation, because at that point our brains switch over. There's this idea of fight or flight, right? And we literally are not thinking right. And like, how sad is that? How sad is that we would go to that length, that we could stop it ahead of time, but we don't have the wherewithal. We haven't trained ourselves and put ourselves in a place that allows us to deal with the stressors that come up in our life. And then we, again, put a wall up there. As a leader, if you can't do this, I learned this many years ago when I came into environmental consulting, and I was a biologist, and I was doing my own thing, and I could handle myself pretty well individually to a certain point, but then I had the dynamics of handling myself and a team. There was other people relying on me, and they didn't work the same way I worked, which wasn't bad or good, but I realized it caused stress because I wasn't communicating, I wasn't working. And then by that, it came back to me. Now I'm stressed because this person's stressed, and it's contagious, right? So if we don't capture that, understand that, it breeds, unfortunately. I wish it was, we could catch that and identify that sooner, and oftentimes we do not. And have you ever had that in an organization? There's that saying, right? One bad apple ruins the bunch. It's true, because it's contagious. It connects. And you can have an amazing team, and I've seen this before, where I've had an amazing group of a team, but the one person was just super stressful the way they're around. They're always on edge. It was just hard to, like, you don't know who the person you're going to get when you would run into them, right? Have you ever had that? You're like, who am I going to get today? Is this Jekyll or Hyde? I don't know, because you don't know where their stress level is, and it could just light up. So I want you to think about that, because if we're not intentional about that, it may seem small at first, but there's an erosion factor there, right? You set the tone. You set the tone as a leader. You bring that energy in. And if you bring that negative energy in, you bring that stress in an unproductive way, I'm telling you, it's contagious and it'll reverberate back to you. How many guys here, right? How many of you guys come in, and if you're calm, cool, collected, you've got your stuff together, you're a man with a plan, and you come in with your wife, like, she melts to that. She loves that. I mean, she knows that, hey, you've got it covered. But if you come in there stressed, barking orders, this, that, and the other thing, how many women just say, oh dear, that's so wonderful, I can just, handle that? Most women cannot. And then they ratchet it up and the stress levels go up and up and up and up, right? So if we don't have a clear understanding of that, these external things that are coming in affect us, what I call the triggers, how we respond internally, think about this. Think about the long-term impact. And you're like, oh, this isn't that big of a deal. I can get through this. But these things are like little bricks in a wall. I really want you to think about that you're losing the bigger vision for your family, for your company. You're thinking strategically. Because if you're not putting yourself in a container in a way to step back and to evaluate these things in an objective manner, again, you're intelligent. You're using your God-given intelligence and wisdom to make better decisions, to improve your productivity and improve team dynamics. You're going to be if you don't do that, you're going to be resistant to change. You're going to be holding back. You're like, this is unsettling. I don't want to go there. And you're setting yourself up. Think about this long term. You're being short-sighted, and you're not going to be able to make long-term decisions. That's what happens when we have cortisol. We're in a hurt mode, and so we just want to make the hurt go away. You will choose to do things that will not help you. So getting clear on this problem that we all have stress, right? And how do we effectively handle that stress so that we can be the best versions of ourselves, having effective communication, building relationships rather than affecting them and tearing them down, right? Rather than eroding them in the organization because of the way we choose to respond and react. So let me give me a tool or an idea here of how to combat that. One that I use daily is the idea of meditation. And there's lots of forms of meditation. So when I say meditation, people are, what is all that? Well, I'm not going to be able to get all into the details here because this podcast is not for that. But I'll give you a little bit of ideas. Can you just calm yourself and center yourself enough? This could literally be 3 minutes. Can you calm yourself and get centered enough so that whatever is swirling around in your world for a moment, that you can be calm, clear, and process that? And I use a tool called the Stack. It also gets me deeper into this process as part of the coaching program that I run. But to guide you through and to get you clear on, okay, I'm not a victim of my circumstances, but I actually embrace the results of my life in the situation that I find myself in. So I want to encourage you in that. Intelligent human leadership is about that. It's about getting you centered, clear, and knowing what's the next action that you need to take. Whatever that might be. It could be in your business, a relationship issue, like what am I going to do in taking care of my body today, or spending time with God. So while you're facing these challenges and these things that inevitably come up, I want to just give you encouragement today and think about this and look into this. And again, have a conversation with me. I'm happy to, walk you through this through a discovery call. But this idea of, okay, meditation. What do I think about meditation? A lot of people have triggers about this because I grew up in the Christian church. So I go to church, and oftentimes there's a oh my goodness, what is meditation? You're pouring out your mind into nothing, and that's not what I'm suggesting here. I'm actually suggesting to invite God into the equation, if you will. Invite a spiritual experience. Invite a time of centering for you. Calm yourself to get in a place where then you can actually make much better decisions for yourself, for your team, and it'll affect you. not just your external world, definitely it'll affect your internal world because people will see the difference in you when you in your presence, but internally, your physical body will respond. How are you going to take care of your physical body? And ultimately, are you living the right life? What are we taking up? Are we making good, healthy decisions? Or are we literally damning ourselves, if you will, by the way we choose? Either way, it's our choice. We have a choice in how we get to respond. There's a great book by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. If you haven't read that book, highly recommend it. But we get to choose how we respond. And one way to do that is through meditation. And so if that's something you're new to you, or you've used it, but you're not quite sure, like, how do I apply it exactly in my situation or the things that are coming through, I encourage you to reach out to me. Happy to have a conversation there. But I want to let you know that you don't have to stay in that place of stress or triggers, and finding ways that are actually healthy versus not healthy. Like saying, I'm just going to go and numb myself out watching a binge TV or just scroll on my phone because I'm essentially just numbing myself. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm actually talking about an active, proactive way of responding to stress in your life, and addressing it, the external stresses, the internal ones, literally how I show up and take care of myself in a productive way. So that's what I have for you today here on the Intelligent Human Leadership Podcast. We'll be talking more about that, going deeper. I mentioned we'll be providing additional solutions, and I want to make sure that you get the full benefits of this podcast to help you and empower you, and know that you're not alone. I've been through this process. That's why I'm sharing it with you in this journey. And I'm excited to continue to share additional topics coming forward. So we'll be covering a lot in how we show up for our teams, for ourselves, for our families. I want to make sure that you are the most intelligent human leader in all areas of your relationships, your life. I encourage you today. I appreciate you listening. If this really resonated with you, I would really greatly appreciate you share this podcast with others. Maybe you're doing great. You're handling the stress well, and you're a meditation master. But if you're not, please let's share this, because we need to make sure people are not alone, and they know that there's others out there in this crazy world, and that they too can become the most intelligent human leader. And so thank you again for joining me. Until next time, this is David Carr, wishing you well. Have a wonderful day.